Da da da. La da 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 Longing like a phantom pain from some lost limb I never knew, and I'll never know how it should go away and never come again to stay. Go, go. Like and share, Linda, you, and 3 of my other closest friends. This is my brand new guitar. You know, yesterday I went to the store to get a sound system set up for my gigs, and I came out with a brand new guitar and some other stuff. It was a bit of a surprise. I think this is the one of the hey. So this is the new axe right here. Very surprising happening yesterday. I took me off to get a little sound system set up for my gig, and wound up with a new guitar and some other equipment and kind of a new attitude. So here we are. We're talking about Epic Pro Sauce and what it takes to move out of the inconsistency of a chaotic life that reinforces fear, as opposed to moving us in to the professional mindset that says, this is who I am. People like me do things like this. Overcomers like I am and you are, we do things like this. People who slam, squish, crunch, trample on serpents and scorpions. This is how we live. This is how we do it. It's really an interesting thing. You know, over this kind of refreshing. Maggie, I know I did. And I've got some other people coming on Sunday to hear me at this place. You know, my son, I told you this the other day, my son said, now, Mom, now these people who are going there, you know, they just really want to eat their breakfast and they just want to talk. So Mom, don't get your feelings hurt if they pay attention to you. Well, I said, I'll just bring my own people to pay attention to me. I will get my own people there who care. No, what I said to him was, I don't need them to listen. I just need to sing. And it was interesting, though, to see when I sang last week who beamed in, who paid attention, and what happened as a result. And I don't know, that's just a larger story about deciding to go pro with the gifts that you have, deciding to go pro. I'm in this interesting phase right now where I'm being stretched, and I'm being asked to cultivate things that make me uncomfortable, that make me realize where my weaknesses are. Like I spoke to you guys yesterday about finding out that you have entire muscle groups that are overcompensating for others. And you feel like the boss man's He-Man, She-Man, Skeletor. And then somebody comes along and points out that you've got this whole other part of your frame and your skeleton and your musculature that's like completely underdeveloped. And the next thing you know, you're you're the 60-pound weakling in the room. And it's funny how you can play consistently to your strengths and people will applaud you, but fear asks you to play to your weaknesses. Yeah, Maggie, that would be really cool. Maybe they can FaceTime you in. That would be really good. Fear asks you to play to your weakness. Fear asks you to go after the things that are in terms of overcoming it. Overcoming fear means playing to your weaknesses. Overcoming fear means going after the things that you're not good at. Overcoming fear means putting yourself in situations where you don't know all there is, where you haven't got it, where somebody just might offend you or tick you off, or something that is said rubs you the wrong way. The pro fear-free liver, as opposed to the amateur fear-free liver, the pro will look for the things they have not yet done and accomplished. The pro will show up for work whether they feel like it or not. The pro will have that mindset of, this is my gig, this is what I do, this is how we go. But you know what's interesting, Linda? I'm finding the subtlety of the things that I've avoided and that I've moved out of because I thought I knew me so well. And this is the difference between deciding to live out of epic pro sauce, which is, my kids have a friend named Jaron, and he's got all these crazy ways he talks and says things, and everything has got the word sauce behind it, sauce. So he's like epic. He uses epic for everything. We're talking about being a pro. He'd be like, this is epic pro sauce. And so now we're leaning into epic pro sauce. And the difference between people who are wannabes, which means you live out of passivity and avoidance, and people who plow through to own and maintain ground, those people think like pros. Pros don't expect it. Then this is interesting. And I think that this goes related to so many things in our life, especially if you have, as an artist, an avocation, something you really want to do, and you care about it a lot and it's your passion, but you probably think more like an amateur than you do a pro. Because an amateur will do it when they feel like it. An amateur will do it when they get, when they're emotionally, kind of wooed into the moment. An amateur will dream about it. An amateur will need a lot of affirmation. And an amateur will have a lot of identity tied up into it. But a pro gets up and does it every day because that's their job. A pro says, what don't I know? I think I better go do that. A pro will take on roles they never took before. Pros have the confidence to not be secure all the time. Does that sound strange? To have the confidence to say, this kind of setting is going to bring out the insecurity of what I don't know. This kind of role, me playing this kind of music, or in this place, in this way, working with this kind of person, is going to bring out the things that are undeveloped in my personality. So I'm going to purposely put myself into settings where I can learn that, because that's what I don't know. I've never done that. I've never been there. I've never accomplished this. I've always stayed in my little safe lane. And that's what's interesting about, as you grow in fear-free living, is the subtlety of how sneaky your avoidance behaviors and my avoidance behaviors become, because we get really, really strong in certain areas and giftings. And then, and to the point where I was saying, I learned I have a spirit of eye rolling, kind of like, you know, you don't know me very well, do you? You're asking me to do this thing, and safe little box, that's right. I've got this down. I know how to do this thing. I'm good at that. That's what I'm known for. Look at me go. I got my little thingy I do online and my other little thingy, and I did these thingies and those thingies, and that's my thingy, right? And it's really interesting how that in of itself can become a set of avoidant habits. And the call is to think like a pro, and a pro is going to go, I show up for work. I don't expect to be affirmed for doing the job that I was hired to do all the time. I do expect to have certain amount of output and discipline. And I do expect that I put my priorities in place to make sure that I get that paycheck. And that's right, Linda, it does take us to stretch. And I do put those things in place, and I consistently separate the professional me from the personal me. When you go into work every day, you are separating out the you that is at home and in your fuzzy slippers and, you know, is all emo and maybe, you know, has a moment, from the person who shows up because you're expected to show up and give your 8 hours or whatever it is to do the thing. And then that pro in you will reach and say, I need to increase in my competency. That's why in some professional things, they've always got you doing these skill enhancement deals, sending you off for greater understanding in your field. Here's the latest thing. We're going to upgrade you. And that's part of the professional world, is what's the latest technology? What are the latest studies saying about that? Where do we need to do some market research? And we're going to stretch you into that. Well, the same thing could be said of the professional fear-free liver, the professional epic pro thinking kingdom person who's going, wait a minute, I have a job to do. I show up, and I am expected to be here whether I feel like it or not. I have found a truth statement in the word I need to live out. That's my job as a kingdom kid. I now choose to show up for the work it's going to take to stay in transformation until it becomes second nature to me. I choose to put myself in situations that I'm actually less secure in. Right, everything changes fast. That's right. And so the thing about that is it keeps your brain constantly growing and changing. And so I've been, reading and gleaning some things from some professionals who talk about what the switch from the amateur artist to the professional artist, and why that's important in the overcoming of fear. Okay, because when you're in an amateur state, your fear is setting your boundaries, because you're thinking, well, what does it matter if I do this? I don't necessarily need to do it. Nobody will care. That is a veiled form of fear of lack of value, right? And lack of investment. It's a passivity. It's an avoidance. The amateur getting all wrapped up identity-wise and everything they do, and what does this mean about me? Well, then that opens us up to fear of worthlessness and fear of not enoughness. And so there, in the amateur world, there are a lot of behaviors that are self-sabotaging, which are acceptable because, hey, it's just your hobby. It's just your hobby. Well, how many of us have that hobby mentality toward the process of stepping fully into our life? Do we have that hobby mentality when it comes to our ministries? Do we have that hobby mentality when it comes to our transformation and our commitment to fear-free living? Or do we say, no, this is who I am, a pro. I am a king or a queen, if you want to go into kingdom language. This is my role. I am a ruler and a reigner. I am an overcomer, which means every day I show up. Overcoming is my breakfast cereal. I show up every day, whether I feel like it or not, to bring my game, to do the work of the songwriting, of the screenplay writing, of the painting, of the relationship changing, of the commitment to my physical health, my bodily health, my family. I do the work of the artistry of intimacy with God and with other people. I show up to do the work because I'm a pro. I made a choice one day to switch from amateur status with my own life into pro status. Now this works beautifully. Hey, Sandra. This works beautifully when calling the artist to life and calling a lot of us to life and say, well, I want to have a business. I want to do this business thing, but it's kind of a sideline and, I got so much going on, so I'll do it tomorrow. And there are a lot of things that play into that amateur mindset in so many deals. Like, well, I'm not really anything. I mean, I could list 2 or 3, but I think you get the point. It doesn't really matter if I show up fully because it's not my gig. Nobody pays me to do this. Nobody cares whether I do it or not. Nobody cares whether I'm fat, whether I'm thin, whether I have a great marriage or a rotten marriage, whether I write the book, I don't write the book, I start the business or I don't start the business. Hey, what does it matter? That's the amateur, and it's very emotional. The amateur way of doing life or approach to anything is hobby-like. It's my hobby. If I don't feel into it, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to follow through. And it is a way of self-sabotaging ourselves through a fear that seems completely rational. Because, when's the last time I got paid for the work that I have to do when nobody's looking? When, if you add up the amount of money I made for gigs through the years, it seems amateur status. But the point is that at any point and at any time, we can choose to go from amateur in our lives to pro. I'm a pro now. And this is how a pro reacts. This is how a pro gets up every day. This is how a pro deals with things. This is how a pro manages her life and her health. This is how a pro shows up. And so this is how I am going to behave. This is how pros act. This is how rulers and reigners act. This is how people of personal and destiny act. And so this is how I will behave and take seriously. I choose pro, exactly. And you know what? The thing of it is nobody can stop you from turning pro in your own life. You don't have to get hired to do it. You don't have to have a change of physical status or have anybody pay you or pat you on the back or change your title and all of a sudden call you something else. You can turn pro as simply as you wake up in the morning and say, today, I treat what I value. I am a professional, and this is how I deal with the things that I value and the things that matter to me. I give up my amateur status of showing up when I feel like it, whining and complaining, getting my identity all wired in with my creative thing and my emotional thing, and saying, no, pros show up and do the work. And guess what they do when it's done? They leave the job and say, that's what I did. I gave them that. And now I'll go do these other things. And now I have this kind of thing. What we do in amateur status related to our gifts, our talents, and our fear-free living commitment is we go, and I think this is part of why I just kind of got slapped around physically, is that the crisis that needed attention around me and always will need attention around me. As a patriot, there's so much to do, right? We got a world to save, we got a country to save, right? But that is not going to change. And by putting that first and saying that has the greater value, in a subtle way, it kept me in amateur status. Because what does a pro do? A pro says, okay, 7:50, work starts at 8, you get the call from the kids and the whatever and the crisis in the car. And you say, you know what? Kids, here, call grandma. I'll be off at lunch by 11:30 and I'll run over and pick you up, and then we'll get that car dropped off, get that tire changed, get you taken care of, and then I'm back, right? Small example. I mean, I think that can be totally pro to be home with your kids, and that's what I did. But I'm just saying, when the crisis hits, the pro tends to say, I will have time to deal with that within this timing. But I can't stop my pro work to put every other crisis and every emotional up and down in front of the work that I am professionally responsible to squeeze out, right? And as an artist and as a spiritual person, as an emotional person, as someone who works for myself and has family central to everything, you can imagine the swirl of what seems super important at any given time. A pro will also say, look, if it's a crisis, guess what? I'll go into my boss and I'll ask and I'll say, I need a personal day to deal with that crisis. But it comes with a beginning, middle, and an end. When we're amateurs at our own lives, then we are tossed about by whatever the feeling or the crisis or the priority or the need is of the people who are around us. And that's never going to change. But the pro will say, I absolutely will deal with that. But guess what? I have to finish this meeting. I have to finish this thing. How many times do we do that when it's related to our physical health? You say, maybe your pro job is the workout. Maybe it is getting that shopping done so you come home with the healthy food. Maybe your pro job is stopping everything to have that intense encounter with your husband or wife to get to the root of it, or to take your kids into counseling, or to spend time with them, or to start that business, or to have that hour of prayer, or whatever it is, in addition to the gig you have on a daily basis. What if that's it? How often we minimize the value of the work we're called to do, the highest work, the work that moves us into that next spiritual place, the work that moves us into our artistry, the work that maybe no one else values, but when we turn pro, all of a sudden we do as work, not as an emotional roller coaster of search for personal affirmation. The amateur tends to find personal affirmation as the outcropping of their work, of their job, of their thing, of their hobby. I do it because I love it. I do it because I want to. I do it because it makes me feel good. I do it because I have dreams of doing it more. But the pro does it simply because that's the work that has to get done. That's where I'm expected. Well, that is a mindset we can have as fear-free lovers, is to say, I have work to do. I'm a professional in the center of my life. And as a professional, there are certain things that I need to prioritize and say, this gets my attention first and foremost. And the other crises, the other things get my lunch hour or whatever it is, right? Because we learned that mind transformation, guess what? My computer is probably going to go to sleep again. So much going on. Is that mind transformation happens when you find a truth in Scripture and you choose to live by it. Mind transformation happens. The next step is when you choose to do it. Do it. Invest in it. Obey the Lord. Stand on the Scripture. Be a doer of the word. And you do it no matter how you feel, because you're a pro. You're an epic pro sauce person who steps into the fullness of God. Number 3 is consistency. What does an epic pro sauce person do? Consistently show up. Consistently, because that's who they are. because that's just how it works. Because there aren't any other expectations for the job. Even if you stay at home with your kids, you have to make sure they get their breakfast every day, and they poop every day, and they do their teeth every day, and they get there and there and there and there and there every day, every stinking day, right? And the fourth and final step of transformation is the reality that you become what you do, and it flows out of you, and you wake up and you go, that's now who I am. Because you have the epic pro sauce mindset that you're not expecting it to happen, the fear-free life to come out of fairy dust, of just asking God to take your fear away. It comes because of the choice to live out of that truth. And we've talked about all the different ways. You know, I've done a zillion shows on brain training and inner healing and doing what scares you, and all the modalities of healing, and the tips and the processes of that. But the reality is that pro people understand what it means to show up, and the expectations change. So I want to turn pro in every area. Thank you, Sandra. But I'm wanting you to know that I got outed this last week or so with a whole series of undermining amateur behaviors and attitudes that I had. Whew. So I'm going to work on that. And my new guitar and my new sound system are one way that I decided I'm turning pro. I'm going to bring my best. I'm going to upgrade the guitar. I'm going to upgrade the system. And I'm going to step into the new gigs and the new situations with a pro sauce mentality, which means that I have new technology to learn. I have a new instrument to learn and understand. I have situations I'm putting myself into that require me as a pro to do on purpose the things that enhance my skill set for my professional life, right? Right. Okay, that's about all I have today. I'm so busy trying to be it that it's a little bit hard to talk about it right now. Anyway, you met a lot of pros. Upgraded life, I know. So let's turn pro. Let's become pro, epic pro sauce people who think like pros in the reality of our own role in the centrality of our life. Jesus, God is the author, but we're the main characters, right? And we don't want to be a side character. What a boring story if there's no epic hero in the middle of it. So let's be the epic pro sauce people who show up as professionals, and there's lots of spiritual language for that, as professionals to be and express the fullness of whole, healthy, full, filled, flowing people, because that's who our Father is, right? So anyways, this guitar is going to, the battery's going to go dead here on the computer, but I'll play a little bit. Welcome to the world, I'm glad you're in it. Time for you to wake up from your sleep. Welcome to your life, it's time you lived it. There is so much more of you to be. You were planted in the field of dreams. Now you're hidden there beneath the ice and snow. But nothing is as desperate as it seems. My spring is calling you to life, to thrive and grow. It's time to grow. Welcome to your place. Let me see. Welcome to your place. No. Welcome to my heart. Da, 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 da. I have saved a spot that's just for you. Welcome to my heart. Yes, you've been in. There is so much more. 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 There is so much more of you and me for you. There is so much more. There is so much more. There is so much more of me. That's him for you. For you. For you. Yeah, that's kind of a nice, sweet sound, isn't it? Welcome to... Oh, wait, it goes like this. Welcome to your place, no one can fill it. I have saved a spot that's just for you. This is my favorite part. Welcome to my heart, you've been in it. There is so much more of me for you. Yeah, so anyways, new acts, man. And new technology. New attitude. Turn pro, which means you do stuff regularly that increases your professional skill at living your own life and doing your own thing in the things God called you into. No more amateur. This is professional level, fear-free living. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow. I got the wheel of death. That probably means that the live stream does not want me to stop.